Space was silent. It was endless, cold, and dark. Stars burned far away like tiny candles, but nothing moved in the empty black. On the human exploration ship Orion, the crew expected another quiet night of travel. They were heading through an unmarked region of the galaxy, mapping stars and looking for new planets. Then it happened. At first, it was just noise. A strange buzz crackled through the ship's communication system. The crew thought it was interference, maybe a solar storm or a broken sensor, but then the sound repeated. It was not random. It was too sharp, too alive. The ship's communication officer leaned closer to his console. He frowned and turned up the volume. Through the static, a voice began to form. It was faint, almost too weak to hear. The words were broken, but one thing was clear. Someone, somewhere, was crying for help. Help us. The sound was thin, almost childlike. Everyone on the bridge froze. The silence that followed was heavy, pressing against their hearts. The captain stood slowly. "Play it again," the voice came back, filled with fear. It echoed like a whisper across the stars. "Help us!" Then static swallowed it whole. The crew looked at each other. No one spoke. "Where is it coming from?" the captain asked. The officer checked his screens. "Unknown. The signal is old, broken, but it's real. Not human. Not from Earth." A shiver ran through the room. For years, humans had searched the galaxy for signs of life. They had found ruins, strange chemical traces, but never a living voice. Now, in the emptiness, someone was calling out to them. The captain felt the weight of the moment. He knew what the rules said. Do not answer unknown signals. Do not risk the ship. But his heart was heavy. What if it really was a cry for help? Could they ignore it? The crew whispered among themselves. Some were excited. This could be first contact, history in the making. Others were afraid. They had all heard the old stories, the warnings. Not every signal meant safety. Sometimes in the dark, something waited for the curious, but the voice came again, this time clearer, as if begging them not to turn away. "Help us, please." The sound shook them to the core. It was filled with pain, filled with fear. No machine could fake such emotion. The captain clenched his fists. Humanity was built on compassion. They could not ignore a voice crying in the dark. Slowly he gave the order. "Send a reply." The officer hesitated, then nodded. A simple message was sent across the stars. "We hear you. Who are you? Where are you?" The ship went silent. The crew held their breath. Minutes passed. Nothing. The silence grew heavier, almost crushing. Then suddenly the speakers came alive. The reply was not what they expected. The voice returned, but this time it was louder. Broken words spilled through the static. The crew leaned in, trying to catch each one. Too late. "They are here." The bridge went cold. Everyone stared at the console. The message repeated, shaking with terror. "Too late. They are here." The captain felt his blood turn to ice. His first thought was clear. This was no ordinary distress call. Whoever had sent it was not just begging for help. They were warning them. "Cut the signal," the captain ordered. But it was already too late. The noise grew louder, sharp, and violent. It filled the ship, making the walls tremble. Lights flickered. The sound was not just words anymore, it was something else. Something vast and heavy, pressing through the static like claws scraping against metal. The crew covered their ears. Some cried out. The sound was not meant for humans, not meant for their minds. It felt alive, like something reaching out through the signal, touching them. Then just as suddenly it stopped. Silence returned. The only sound left was the crew's heavy breathing. The captain looked at his officers. No one spoke. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide. Everyone understood the same terrible truth. The voice had called for help. The voice had warned them. But in answering, the humans had been heard. The Orion's captain whispered to himself, "What have we done?" Far beyond the stars, in the endless dark, something shifted. Something old. Something waiting. And now it knew that humanity had listened. The first signal had been received. The first reply had been sent. And the story of mankind's most terrifying encounter had just begun. The crew of the Orion did not sleep that night. The strange voice still echoed in their minds. Every whisper of the ship's engines, every flicker of the lights reminded them of the words, "Too late. They are here." The message had not been a cry for help. It had been a warning. But a warning of what? The captain sat in his chair, staring at the empty stars beyond the window. He was a man of reason, trained to follow rules. But now reason felt far away. The crew looked to him for answers, and he had none. "Captain," said the communication officer quietly. "The signal. It's still there. Weak, broken, but it's still repeating." The captain closed his eyes. A part of him wanted to cut it off forever, to erase the sound from his ship. But another part, a deeper part, could not turn away. "Can we track it?" he asked. The officer hesitated. "Yes, it's far, but we can find the source. A dead star system abandoned long ago. It won't be easy. It will take us off our path." The words hung in the air. The first officer, a woman with sharp eyes, spoke firmly. "We should not go." You heard that voice. It was fear. "Whatever waits there is not a friend. We risk the ship. We risk Earth." But the science officer shook his head. "Captain, think of what this means. Real aliens alive. This is what we've dreamed of. If someone is in danger, it is our duty to help. We can't ignore it." Voices rose. Some argued with hope, others with fear. The bridge filled with tension, words clashing like blades. At last the captain raised his hand. Silence fell. "We are explorers. We are human, and humanity does not turn away from a voice in the dark." His voice was calm but heavy. "Set course for the signal." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. A choice had been made. The Orion turned, its engines flaring as it cut through the silence of space. Days passed. The stars slid by like watchful eyes. The crew grew restless. Conversations fell quiet. It was as if the ship itself had become heavier, carrying not just steel and fire, but the weight of fear. The captain walked the halls at night, listening to the hum of the engines. He thought of home, of Earth, blue and bright, far behind them. He thought of the voice, thin and broken, begging across the stars. Sometimes late in the night he wondered, had they made a mistake? On the 5th day, the signal grew stronger. The voice, once faint, now came clearer. "Help us. Please, hurry!" The crew gathered around the console, listening. For a moment, hope sparked in their hearts. Maybe survivors truly waited. Maybe they could save them. But then came the rest of the message. "Do not answer. Do not." The words cut off, buried under static. The crew froze. The science officer leaned forward. "It's damaged. Maybe the message is incomplete." But the first officer shook her head, her face pale. "No, that was a warning. They're telling us not to respond." They knew someone would hear them. They knew he would come. The bridge went silent again. Everyone turned to the captain. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. Every part of his training told him to stop, to turn back. But deep in his heart, a flame burned. Curiosity, compassion, and a strange sense of destiny. "We continue," he said. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "We cannot stop now." The ship surged forward. That night, strange things began to happen. The engineer reported that the power systems flickered, though no faults were found. The navigator swore he saw shadows outside the windows, shapes moving against the stars, and one of the crew woke screaming, saying the voice had spoken to him in a dream. The captain called a meeting. Tired faces stared back at him. Fear was spreading. "We made a choice," the captain told them. "We cannot turn back. If someone needs us, we will not abandon them. That is who we are." His words were steady, but his heart was heavy. He knew not all of them believed him anymore. Some looked at him with trust, others with doubt. The ship was no longer united, but the course was set. And beyond the stars, the source of the signal waited. As the Orion moved deeper into the uncharted region, space itself seemed to change. The stars grew thinner, the dark grew heavier. Strange energy fields brushed against the ship, making the hull groan. The crew worked in silence. Every eye was on the sensors. Every heart waited for what lay ahead. Then at last the navigator spoke. His voice shook. "Captain, we've found it." On the screen appeared a broken world floating around a dying sun. Its surface was cracked, lifeless, covered in ash. Around it drifted the remains of ships, alien designs torn apart, burned lifeless, the source of the signal. The graveyard of a world. The crew stared in silence. The captain's chest tightened. Somewhere down there, someone or something had called to them, and now they had arrived. The broken planet turned slowly under the dying sun. From the bridge of the Orion, the crew stared in silence. It was a graveyard. Mountains of ash covered the surface. Cities once alive were now black scars. Huge cracks split the land like wounds. Around the planet floated the remains of ships, metal twisted and burned. Drifting in endless circles, the signal still pulsed. Weak, fragile, like the heartbeat of something barely alive. The captain leaned forward. His voice was calm, but his eyes were tight. "Scan for life," the sensors hummed. For a long moment, nothing. Then the screen flickered. "Captain," the officer whispered. "There are survivors. Faint, very faint. A small vessel is still intact." The bridge filled with uneasy breaths. Survivors meant hope. Survivors meant answers. But survivors here in this graveyard also meant danger. "Lock onto them," the captain ordered. The Orion drifted closer. Through the windows, the crew saw the vessel, a broken shell of a ship scarred by fire, spinning slowly. Its lights flickered, weak as dying candles. Docking clamps reached out. The two ships touched, metal against metal. The airlock hissed open. A rescue team in suits entered. Their footsteps echoed on the ruined vessel's floor. The corridors were dark, filled with smoke and silence. Then they found them. 3 alien beings huddled in the corner of a ruined chamber. Their bodies were thin, their skin pale and cracked like stone. Their eyes, large, dark, and filled with fear, watched the humans with silent despair. One alien tried to rise but fell. Its voice was broken, trembling. "You should not have come." The words made the humans freeze. The rescue team looked at each other. But training took over. They carried the survivors back to the Orion. On the ship, medics worked quickly. Strange machines scanned the alien bodies, searching for wounds. The aliens breathed weakly, each breath a fight. The crew gathered in the med bay, watching. None of them had seen real aliens before. These were not pictures in a book. These were not legends. These were living beings, fragile and real. The captain stepped forward. "Who are you? What happened here?" The eldest alien, its voice thin but sharp, opened its eyes. For a moment, silence. Then it spoke. "We were many, a world full of life. But we heard the cry." The humans leaned closer. The alien's words were slow, broken by pain. "A cry, just like ours," we answered. "We came, and then it found us." A chill swept the room. "What found you?" the science officer asked. The alien's eyes filled with a dark, deep terror. "The Eater, the hunter of stars." The crew exchanged fearful looks. The alien coughed, its body trembling. It in calls to the kind, to the good. Those who care, those who come. And when they answer, it follows. The captain felt his chest tighten. His mind went back to the first words they had heard. Too late. "They are here." The alien gripped his arm with surprising strength. "It knows you now, it knows your world." The room fell into silence. Every human felt the same cold truth. By answering, they had revealed themselves. They had brought the predator's gaze upon humanity. Alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed through the ship. The bridge called in. "Captain, sensors detect movement in the outer field." Something huge. Approaching. The alien's eyes widened with despair. "It comes." The captain rushed to the bridge. On the screens, beyond the broken planet, shadows shifted. Something vast moved between the wreckage. At first it looked like debris, a mountain of stone. But then it twisted, opened, and eyes like burning stars blinked in the dark. The crew gasped. The science officer whispered, "That's no ship. It's alive." The massive shape turned slowly toward them. The broken vessels around it drifted like dust around a predator's jaws. The alien's voice echoed in the captain's mind. "It calls to the kind. It follows the good." The captain's heart pounded. They had wanted to save survivors. They had wanted to be human, and now something ancient and hungry had found them. "Captain," the first officer whispered, her voice trembling. "What do we do?" The captain stared at the giant shadow moving closer, its presence filling the void, its size beyond anything they had known. He swallowed hard. "We survive." The Orion turned its engines, pulling away from the graveyard. The survivors lay weak in the med bay, their eyes filled with sorrow. They had seen this before. They knew what followed, and in the dark behind them, the first glimpse of the monster stirred. It was awake now. It had smelled new prey, and Earth was no longer hidden. The shadow of the creature still haunted the crew of the Orion. It had not attacked, not yet. It had only moved in the dark, watching. But that was enough to fill every human heart with fear. The survivors, the fragile aliens pulled from the broken ship, rested in the med bay. Their bodies were weak, but their voices carried a weight older than the stars. The captain stood beside them, searching for answers. "Tell us what hunts you," he said quietly. The eldest alien opened its eyes. They were black, deep as endless space. Its voice was thin, cracked, but every word cut through the silence. "It is not a beast. It is not a god. It is
hunger." The crew leaned closer.
The alien continued. "It waits in the dark between stars. It cannot build. It cannot create. It only waits. And it has one gift, its voice. It calls for help. The kind, the brave, the hopeful, they come. They always come." The alien coughed, its chest shaking. "And when they do, it follows them home." A silence heavier than steel filled the room. The humans understood. This was no random cry. It was bait. The captain's jaw tightened. "You mean, by answering, we showed it our world?" The alien's gaze burned with sorrow. "Yes, it knows now. It will come for you as it came for us. It will not stop until nothing remains." The science officer shook his head in disbelief. "But that thing it's enormous. How can it even travel across the stars?" The alien's lips twisted in something close to fear. "It does not travel. The stars themselves bring it. Where kindness shines, where compassion lives, its shadow falls. It always finds a way." The crew argued for hours. Some begged to turn back to run for Earth. Others said it was too late. On the bridge, voices clashed. "If it knows Earth's location, we must warn them," the first officer insisted. "And bring panic to billions?" Another replied. "What if we're wrong? What if this is just one dying creature?" But deep inside, no one believed that. They had seen the shadow move. They had felt its presence pressing against their ship like a storm. The captain raised his voice above the chaos. "Enough. Whether we run or fight, Earth must know. Send the warning." The communication officer's hands trembled as he sent the message back across light years. "Earth, prepare. Something is coming. It hunts the good. It hunts the kind. Do not answer signals." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then the officer whispered, "Message sent." The words felt heavy. Final. That night, the alien survivors whispered to each other in their own language. The medics could not understand, but their voices trembled like wind through broken glass. One alien, younger than the others, called softly to a human nurse. Its eyes shone with a strange, painful hope. "Maybe you will succeed," it said. The nurse frowned. "Succeed?" The alien's chest rose weakly. "We failed," we answered, "and we died, but you? Maybe you are different. Maybe your fire is strong enough." The nurse could not reply. She only held the alien's hand, cold and fragile as stone. On the 6th day, the sensors screamed. A massive surge of energy rippled across the field. Lights flickered. The ship groaned. The crew ran to their stations. On the screen, the graveyard shifted. Wrecked alien ships drifted aside, pushed by something vast, and then they saw it again. The creature. It unfolded from the shadows like a nightmare blooming. Its body was not metal, not flesh, but something between. Dark plates that glistened like stone. Veins of burning light crawling through them. Its mouth was no mouth at all, but a crack that split the void, filled with endless teeth. It did not move fast. It did not need to. It only stared. The crew froze under its gaze. Even through glass and steel they felt it. An ancient intelligence, patient and cruel. Then the voice came again. Not through speakers. Not through machines. Through their minds, help us, the same broken plea. But now they knew. It was not the voice of a victim. It was the voice of the predator itself, wearing sorrow like a mask. Some crew members clutched their heads, screaming. Others fell silent, tears streaming from their eyes. The sound was inside them, pulling at their compassion, forcing them to listen. The captain slammed his fists on the console. "Turn it off. Block it out." But how do you silence a voice inside your own mind? The aliens in the med bay cried out, their weak bodies trembling. The eldest whispered with his last breath, "Now you see, it has spoken to you, and once it speaks, it never stops." His chest fell. His eyes closed. The crew realized he was gone. The first of the survivors was dead. The Orion's crew stood frozen, hearts heavy with fear. The warning had been clear. They had answered the cry, and now the monster's song had found them, and Earth would hear it soon. The Orion drifted in silence, but the silence was no longer empty. It was alive. Every shadow outside the window felt like it was watching. Every creak of the ship's frame felt like a whisper from the dark. The crew moved quietly, speaking only when needed. They were explorers trained to face the unknown, but this was different. This was not discovery. This was dread. On the bridge, the captain stood with his hands on the console. His eyes never left the screen, where the monster floated in the graveyard. It was massive, its body drifting slowly, almost lazily among the wrecked ships. It did not rush. It did not strike, it simply waited. The science officer whispered, "It's studying us." The captain said nothing, but in his heart he knew it was true. In the med bay, the surviving aliens shivered in their beds. Their bodies were too weak to stand, but their fear was strong. The younger one grabbed a human nurse by the arm. Its voice was thin, breaking apart. "You must leave. Run while you can. It will follow, but maybe you can hide." The nurse shook her head. "How do we fight it?" The alien's eyes darkened. "You cannot. It is older than your son. It has destroyed worlds before your kind learned to walk. It cannot be killed. Only delayed." The words spread through the ship like poison. Only delayed. The crew began to understand the truth. They were not here to win. At best, they could only buy time. That night, the crew heard it again. The voice. Not through speakers. Not through radios. Inside their minds. "Help us. We are dying. Come closer." The captain gritted his teeth, trying to shut it out. But some crew members could not. One young engineer wept, clutching his head. "We can't just leave them. We have to help." "There is no one left to help," the first officer shouted, shaking him. "Don't you understand? It's the monster. It's using us." But the voice grew stronger, gentle, sad, almost human. It wrapped around their hearts like chains, pulling at their compassion. The captain ordered the medics to sedate the engineer, but the damage was done. They all knew the creature was inside their minds. It could twist their feelings, bend their will. On the 7th day it moved. The sensors screamed as the monster stirred. Its massive body uncoiled, dark plates shifting like armor. The graveyard of ships scattered as it stretched itself, wings of bone and light unfolding across the void. The crew watched in horror. It was not just a creature, it was a world eater, its size beyond reason. The light of the dying star bent around its body as if afraid to touch it. And then, it roared, not with sound, but with force. The Orion shook violently, alarms blaring. Systems failed. Lights flickered. The hull groaned as if crushed by invisible hands. The captain gripped his chair. "Report," the navigator shouted. "It's pulling us in." Gravity. Artificial, impossible gravity. The monster was dragging them closer. "Engines full power," the captain roared. The Orion's thrusters burned bright, fighting against the pull. The ship shook, metal screaming. Slowly, painfully, it began to move away. The crew cheered, but their hope died in the next instant. On the screen, the monster opened its mouth. Not a mouth of flesh, but a black crack in space itself. And from it, smaller shapes began to emerge. At first, the humans thought they were debris. But then the shapes spread wings of shadow and light, hundreds of them flying like predators released from a cage. The science officer whispered, trembling, "Spawn. It has spawn." The swarm turned toward the Orion. The captain's voice thundered, "Battle stations! Arm all weapons." The ship came alive. Cannons powered up, missiles loaded. Every crew member rushed to their post, hands shaking but hearts burning. The first officer looked at the captain. Her eyes were sharp, fearless despite the dread. "We won't outrun it." "We fight," the captain nodded. "We fight." The swarm struck first. Dark shapes slammed into the Orion's shields, shrieking like knives across glass. Beams of burning light cut through the dark, tearing holes in space. The Orion fired back, missiles streaking, cannons thundering. Explosions filled the void. For every spawn destroyed, 3 more appeared. They were fast, merciless, and endless. The crew fought with everything they had. The ship shook with every hit. Sparks rained in the corridors. Smoke filled the air. But still they fired. Still they refused to fall. In the med bay, the young alien watched with wide eyes. For the first time, it saw humans not as victims, but as something different. It whispered to itself, "They fight, even when hope is gone." On the bridge, the captain stood tall, his face lit by fire from the battle outside. He knew the truth. They could not win. But maybe, just maybe, they could hold the line long enough to send one more message. A warning. A chance for Earth to prepare. He looked at his crew. We are the Orion, and we will not be silent. The ship roared into the fight, its weapons burning brighter than the stars. Behind them, the monster stirred fully, its eyes opening like suns. The true battle had only begun. The Orion burned through the void like a wounded animal. Fire spread across its hull, shields cracked, and alarms screamed in every corridor. But still it fought. The swarm circled like vultures, striking again and again. Each impact shook the ship. Sparks rained from ceilings, smoke choked the air. Crew members shouted over the chaos, their voices desperate but determined. On the bridge, the captain stood tall, his uniform torn, his face dark with ash. "Keep firing," he roared. "Don't stop!" Cannons thundered. Missiles streaked into the swarm, exploding in bursts of light. Dozens of the creatures shattered into ash. But more came. Always more. The science officer shouted, "Captain, we can't keep this up. The shields are down to 10%. The first officer, blood running down her face, glared at him. "Then we fight until there is nothing left." In the med bay, the surviving aliens watched with wide, terrified eyes. The youngest one whispered, "They fight for each other. Not for survival, but for each other." The nurse beside it held its trembling hand. Her own body shook with exhaustion, but her voice was steady. "That's what humans do. We don't give up. Not even when the dark comes." The alien had no answer. It had seen its own people fall without hope. Yet here in this human ship there was no surrender. The swarm struck harder. One of the Orion's engines exploded, shaking the ship like an earthquake. A crewman was thrown across the bridge, his scream lost in the alarms. The captain's heart clenched, but he forced his voice steady. "Seal the breach. Keep us moving." The navigator's hands shook as she pressed the controls. "Captain, if we don't escape now, we never will." But the captain knew the truth. Escape was impossible. The monster was too large, too patient. Even if they fled, it would follow. His jaw tightened. "We don't run. We buy time." He turned to the communication officer. "Send another message to Earth. Tell them everything. Tell them what we face." The officer's fingers flew over the console, voice shaking as he spoke into the recorder. "This is the Orion. We have found survivors. We have found the predator. It is real. It hunts the kind. It will come for you. Prepare. Fight. Do not give in." The message streaked into the stars, carrying the last hope of humanity. But the monster had noticed. On the screen, its massive form moved closer. Its eyes glowing like dying suns fixed on the Orion. It opened its maw, an abyss of endless teeth, and the swarm pulled back, giving their master space. The crew froze as a terrible hum filled the air. It was not sound but force bending the very metal of the ship. The science officer whispered, "It's going to consume us." The captain clenched his fists. His heart pounded with fear but also with pride. Humanity had come too far, fought too hard to simply vanish. He looked at his crew. Their faces were pale, bruised, streaked with blood and sweat. But in their eyes he saw fire. "We are not prey," the captain said. His voice shook the silence. "We are human, and we will make it remember us." Orders flew across the bridge. Weapons were rerouted to the engines. Power was stolen from life support. The Orion became a single weapon, ready to burn. The first officer grinned through bloodied teeth. "If this is the end, let's make it one the universe never forgets." The swarm closed in again, but the Orion turned straight toward the monster. Its broken engines roared, pushing it forward. "Full speed," the captain shouted. "All weapons, fire!" The ship screamed through the void, guns blazing. Missiles detonated in waves of fire, tearing through the swarm. Dozens of creatures fell. The Orion's hull cracked, but it kept going, burning like a comet. The monster opened its maw wider, the abyss ready to swallow them whole. In the med bay, the young alien pressed its hands against the glass, tears in its dark eyes. "They are not like us. They do not kneel." The nurse whispered back, "No, we stand, even at the end." The Orion fired its last missiles, its last cannon blasts, every ounce of fire it had left. The swarm exploded in waves of ash, the dark lit by fire brighter than stars. But the monster still waited, endless, unstoppable. The captain's voice filled the ship. "Crew of the Orion, you are the shield of Earth. Stand proud." The first officer saluted him. The crew shouted as one, their voices filled with courage, not fear. And the Orion hurled itself straight into the mouth of the beast. The universe shook with light. Fire consumed the void. The Orion was gone, but its message was already racing home. On Earth far away, humanity would soon hear the warning. The monster was coming, and when it came, humans would be ready to stand. The Orion was gone, but the void was not silent. Waves of fire faded into dust. Fragments of metal spun slowly through the darkness, the last remains of the human ship. The swarm drifted back, circling their master, and the great monster, older than stars, floated in the shadows unharmed. It had swallowed ships before. It had swallowed worlds. The Orion was just another flame snuffed out in the endless dark. But this time, something was different. The monster shuddered. It felt the burn of human defiance inside its body. The blast of their final strike had not killed it, but it had left a scar, small, faint, but real. For the first time in eons, the predator felt pain, and deep within the wreckage, one human heartbeat still echoed, the captain's voice, not his body, not his mind, but his final words, carried by the Orion's last signal, still pulsed across the stars. A defiance too bright to erase. We are not prey. We are human, and we will make you remember us. The monster paused. It did not understand courage. It did not understand sacrifice. To it, life was only hunger and silence. Yet something in that human fire disturbed it. The swarm screeched uneasily, as if sensing their master's confusion. Far away, the message traveled. Through black oceans of space, through the silent reach of light years, it sped toward Earth. It carried more than words. It carried a warning and a seed of truth. But as the human's message raced home, the monster stirred again. Its vast body unfolded, and for the first time it revealed its true shape. It was not flesh, not fully. Beneath its armor of bone and stone were lines, patterns like circuits glowing with ancient fire. Its heart did not beat. It pulsed like a machine. The survivors, the fragile aliens in the medbay of the wrecked vessel, gasped as they saw it on the screens. It was built, the youngest whispered. Its eyes widened in horror. Not born, built, the others shivered. By who? The answer was worse than silence. Long ago, before their kind, before humans, another civilization had ruled the stars. They had built wonders, machines that could bend suns, weapons that could shatter galaxies. And in their hunger for power, they had built this, a perfect predator, but they had lost control. Their creation turned on them, devouring its masters, learning their weaknesses, feeding on their compassion. When their worlds burned, it wandered the dark, carrying only one weapon, its false cry for help, and so it survived. And so it grew. The surviving alien trembled as it spoke. It hunts kindness. It hunts mercy. That is why it lives forever. It knows the good cannot turn away. And when they come, it follows them home. The humans had been its newest prey. The Orion had been its newest victim. And now, Earth was next. Back on Earth, the signal arrived. In a great command hall, leaders and scientists listened as the Orion's final message played across the speakers. The captain's voice was steady, strong even in death. It hunts the kind. It hunts the good. Do not trust the cry for help. It is the mask of death. Prepare, fight, do not give in. Silence filled the hall. No one breathed. For the first time, humanity knew it was not alone. And for the first time, humanity knew it was hunted. Some wept. Others clenched their fists. But all of them felt the same fire, the fire the Orion had shown in its final moments. If the monster was coming, Earth would not wait like prey. Out in the void, the predator shifted. Its eyes glowed like dying suns, fixed now on the blue world far away. It had destroyed many civilizations. It had feasted for ages, but never before had prey scarred it. Never before had prey defied it. This time its hunger was mixed with something else, something new. Caution. The young alien, weak in the medbay, whispered as it stared at the distant stars. Perhaps this time, it has chosen wrongly. Perhaps this time the fire will burn the dark. The others did not answer. Their eyes were heavy with sorrow. They had seen too many worlds fall. But deep in their hearts, even they felt a spark. For the humans were different. They were fragile, yes. But they did not bend. They did not kneel. Even in their last breath they stood. And so the galaxy waited. A predator older than stars, scarred but alive. A young species frightened but unbroken, and a war that had not yet begun. The cry for help still echoed across space. But now the universe knew the truth. It was not a call of mercy. It was a trap, and humanity had answered.